Hi ladies, and welcome to a Coaching with Kerry video. In this video today I'm going to talk through 10 mistakes that a lot of corporate women make and actually the impact that they're having and what we can actually do differently as well. So first one is just sitting for 8 to 10 hours a day. Our daily movement is so important for our fat loss, and if we are just sedentary for 8 to 10 hours in the day, then we are not increasing our general daily movement. And what's so important in fat loss is actually our non-exercise activity. So that is things like just walking around. So what you can do is, can you take a call on the move? Get out at lunchtime, even if it's just 10 minutes around the block at lunchtime. If you're going to the kitchen or the bathroom in the office, can you do an extra lap, 2 laps around the office, just to increase that general step and that general movement? And what that's going to do is increase our overall calorie burn for that day without having to do any exercise. So just something to think about with that one. The next one, and this is such a big factor in fat loss, and fat loss is not just all about calories and exercise and what we eat. Sleep is one of the biggest factors that we often overlook. So if we're only getting 4, 5, even 6 hours sleep, what that's doing is it can increase our cortisol level. So our cortisol spikes first thing in the morning, just before we wake up anyway. And if we've had disrupted sleep, it causes that to spike even higher. And women, we spike higher than men generally anyway. It also impacts our other hormones. So hormones that impact our hunger and our feeling of fullness. So if we've had disrupted sleep, do you ever feel like you're just a little bit more hungry? Or when you eat something, you're just not satisfied by it? That's because our hormone levels are higher because we've had that disrupted sleep. So things we can do about that is really trying to incorporate an evening downtime. So an hour before we're trying to go to bed, can we be reading a book? Can we be putting our phone in another room? But also the environment we're sleeping in. So considering, is your room too hot? Is it too cold? Is it too bright? Thinking about those things can really, really help improve our sleep. And also related to that, replying to emails late or working late, the longer we spend staring at that blue light we get from our screens, the more our brain is engaged and the less likely we are going to be to switch off. So can we focus on our sleep? That's a really, really big factor in fat loss. Number 3 is doing too much cardio, focusing solely on cardio. And yes, cardio is really, really good for that sharp decline in weight because we're spiking up our heart rate and we're getting everything moving. But in the long run, we really need to be building muscle. So instead of hitting 4 spin classes in a week, can we do 2 spin classes and 2 strength sessions? Building muscle is going to help us long term. It's going to help us bone density. It reduces the risk of any cardiovascular diseases or issues in the future. So can we focus on other activities rather than just focusing on cardio? So can we mix it up? Some strength and some cardio. Number 4 is focusing on healthy foods. And what I mean by that is things that are branded as being healthy. So many of those foods are packed full of other rubbish. And what we really need to focus on is whole foods and getting enough protein into our diet. Protein is king for our hormones, for muscle, for recovery. And if we're focusing solely on eating salads and smoothies, what they're doing is they are really low in calories, which is good if we are in a deficit, but they're not keeping you full for long enough. You then go grabbing that healthy bar in the afternoon and you're overeating in an evening then. So can we focus on whole foods for our breakfast and our lunches and really increasing the volume of what we're eating? Focusing on whole foods first. So I want natural protein sources, guys. Chicken, fish, eggs, edamame beans, tofu, cottage cheese. Those sources are way better than a protein shake or a protein bar. Number 5 is focusing on what I've called weekend warrior workouts. So leaving to the weekend and doing 2 or 3 really, really intensive workouts at the weekend. And don't get me wrong, working out at the weekend is fantastic, but it needs to be spread across the week. Doing 2 or 3 at the weekend is not enough to increase our whole week's worth of calorie burn and increasing that exercise. So what we really want to be doing is spreading across the week into 4 or 5 sessions, smaller sessions that we're equaling out. You're less likely to get injured that way, and also you're less likely to get fatigued because we're spreading that out. And do smaller sessions. I'm not saying you have to go in the gym for an hour 4 times a week. Focus on 30 to 40 minute sessions 4 or 5 times a week rather than crashing in 3 hours at the weekend. That's just going to increase our overall expenditure of energy and give us that consistency. And what we really want to focus on is consistency, not perfection. Number 6 is linked to that as well, motivation. We all say, oh, I'm not motivated, or I didn't have the energy to do this. Focusing solely on waiting for your motivation to get you to do something is not the way to move forward. What we really need to have in place is structures and systems that allow us to be consistent rather than waiting for us to feel super motivated. I myself do not feel super motivated every single day. Trust me, it fluctuates. But I have a structure and I have a process in place that allows me to, if my motivation is a little bit down, that's fine, because I know I can go again tomorrow. So what we really want to focus on is having that structure. Plan your week out in advance. Plan around the days you know you're going to have more energy. The days, say you go to the office 3 times a week and you struggle to get your workouts in. Focus on the other 2 days when you can get those exercises in, and therefore you don't need to rely on your motivation to get you there because you've planned it out in front of you. It's just something to consider. Our motivation is not going to help us lose fat. We need the structures in place in order to keep us moving. Number 7 is actually stress. So I've mentioned cortisol already, and busy women in high pressure environments, our stress and the cycles we get ourselves in working actually have such a big impact on our ability to lose fat. So when we're stressed, our body goes into a fight or flight mode. And what that means is, if we're stressed, our cortisol levels are up, our hormone levels are up, our body will hold on to fat in order to protect itself. And what we don't realize is, if we are stressed from work, the kids, anything, right? Life throws at us, that is going to impact us. So what we need to, again, the same with the motivation, is look at that cycle and look what might be triggering us and actually plan accordingly. So as I said, if you know you have a super busy day on a Tuesday, don't try and squeeze in a workout on a Tuesday. Plan it on a Monday or a Wednesday when you know your energy levels are going to be higher. Your stress levels are likely to be a little bit lower, and you're going to be more likely to have the energy there to do it. So our stress is something that really, really does impact our ability to lose fat because our body is protecting itself. Number 8 is skipping meals. So I speak to a lot of women, and I myself have done this. Oh, I'm not going to eat breakfast, I'll just eat a bigger lunch. What that's actually doing is causing our blood sugars to spike and decrease, and are more likely to be much sharper, because when we wake up, our metabolism kicks in, and if we're skipping a meal, all we're doing is pushing that hunger to another point. And actually what we're likely to do is, if we skip a meal, we're likely to overeat. And that's also, if we think about the whole week as a whole, if we reduce what we eat during the week in order to save calories for the weekend, I can guarantee you eat more at the weekend. What we're better off doing is trying to, instead of having ups and downs through the days, just trying to level it out. We are more likely to be able to, I don't know what the word is, take on a spike. So if you have a really good week, Monday through Thursday, Friday have a glass of wine. Okay, fine, we spike. Saturday, you're back down again. If we are consistent across the majority of the week, 80%, we can accommodate for those 20% spikes or decreases. But what we really want to focus on is not skipping meals, under eating, causes us to underfuel, and ultimately that causes our body and our hormones to all drop, and it has other consequences which I won't go into on this video, but under eating does impact other parts of our body which you might not realize. But ultimately we want to aim for 80%, and as I've said before, this is about consistency, not about perfection. 2 more to go. Number 9 is caffeine. So related to skipping meals, relying on caffeine to get you through the morning. Again, liquid calories. There's lots of hidden things in your coffee. So if you go into Starbucks and you're buying a latte with a syrup, that is going to be so much higher, one, in calories than you realize because of the milk and the sugars. But also if we rely on caffeine, again, it causes a spike and it's going to cause a decrease as well. So what we really want to focus on is with our coffee in the morning, not saying you don't need to drink coffee, I've got one right here, but with that, pair it with a good breakfast, pair it with protein, pair it with carbs. That way the caffeine is being absorbed and we're going to use it more evenly than we're getting the spike and then the decrease again. And then my final one is, unfortunately, girls, as soon as we go over the 30s, I, for one, definitely saw a change, and relying on strategies that worked in our 20s for fat loss, unfortunately, don't work quite the same. I used to be able to eat what I like, drink what I like, do the exercise, and I would stay pretty consistent. Unfortunately, our bodies do react differently, and we do need to focus on slightly different things. So key takeaways from this really is we need to focus on daily movement. Can we get those steps in? Can we get that extra movement in our days? Second one, and super important, it's not just about calories, sleep. Can we focus on our sleep? Can we change the environment that we're sleeping in order to improve our sleep? And finally, stress management. Stress has such a big impact on our bodies, more than we will realize. And those spikes in our hormones are elevated by stress. So can we find things that help us reduce our stress, even though we know we're so busy? Focusing on our sleep will help with that. Having the structures in place so that we don't feel overwhelmed. Those are the things we need to be focusing on as corporate women over 30, so that we are building our bodies and our lives to be successful all the way until we're 90. So I hope this has been helpful. There are my 10 mistakes and things we can do in order to make some small changes in our lives. Small changes add up. So hope this has been useful. Give me a follow on Instagram for more tips and tricks, and look out for more videos in the future. Thanks, guys.